Hi guys, welcome to Hopeful Homeschooling. My name is Becky and I started this channel in hopes to just be an encouragement to anyone who might be considering homeschooling for the first time, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. I realize there are a lot of people who have a lot of questions, and you'll learn that I'm definitely not a seasoned professional, but I do really enjoy homeschooling and done a lot of research in the past couple years, so I just hope to kind of pass along any information that's helpful to you or point you in the right direction to find the resources you need to do this well. So I'll start off just by telling you a little bit about myself and our homeschooling journey. I'm married to Rob, and we have been married for about 12 and a half years. We have 4 kids. We have an 8-year-old son, a 6-year-old son, a 4-year-old daughter, and then a baby boy who will be 2 months in just a couple days here. My husband and I both attended Baltimore County Public Schools from kindergarten through graduation, and I think we just kind of assumed that that's what we would do with our own kids too. I've always known that I wanted to be a teacher, and so after I graduated high school, I went to college in Pennsylvania and earned a teaching degree. And so I came back to Maryland and taught second grade in a private school for 4 years before I had my first son. And then stayed home with him for the first year of his life, and then went back to teaching for another year. And then after that, when he was about to turn 2, we started traveling. So we went to Nairobi, Kenya for a year through a missions agency. And while I was there, I met a few missionary mamas who were homeschooling. And I just remember looking at their kids and their family and thinking, wow, their kids are really smart. They're very responsible and mature. And I would love if my kids grew up to be kind of like that. So that kind of planted a seed in my heart for homeschooling, even though I only had one child at the time and he was really little. We did have our second child there. And so by the time our year was up in Kenya, we came back to Maryland with 2 kids now. We stayed in Maryland for 6 weeks before we moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and stayed there for 2 years. My husband was earning his bachelor's degree in theology. And so while we were there, we were part of an amazing church. We had a small group there, and again, just met some more moms who were starting off on their homeschool journey, and just kind of observed them and talked to them some, and just really liked the rhythm that they had for their family, and was just really, again, intrigued by the idea of homeschooling, and just kind of tucked it away in the back of my mind. So then when we were in Minnesota, we had another baby. That's when our daughter was born. And so we came back from these 3 years of traveling, and now we had 3 kids, 4 and under, and we were finally ready to settle in Maryland. And so about that time, my oldest was about the age of kindergarten. He was 4 turning 5, and he's a September birthday. So I knew that by county standards, he wouldn't have to start kindergarten until the following year. I knew I could have him tested if I wanted to and send him to public school, or I could just homeschool him myself. And so I kind of decided to make it like a trial period. Since it wasn't official, it took a lot of pressure off, and I just kind of was like, we'll see how this homeschooling thing goes. And if it's a disaster, I'll just enroll him somewhere next year. And if it's good, then maybe we'll keep going with it. And so somehow we survived that first year and enjoyed it, even though we had a couple toddlers underfoot. It's such a blur though. I can't even remember what kind of curriculum I used with him, to be completely honest. But it was enough to know that we could do it, and that it was challenging, but it was also fun at the same time. And so, yeah, that's kind of how we decided that we would continue with it. The following spring, I attended a huge homeschooling conference, and there were just a ton of speakers and more curriculum than you could ever imagine. And while some people feel overwhelmed by that, I was one of those people who was really excited about it. I guess just from a teaching background, I love all of that kind of thing, the workshops, the curriculum, all of it. So I was hooked, and my husband and I, again, we just prayed about it. And something that's important to mention here is that we decided that our homeschooling policy kind of would be year by year, kid by kid. I didn't want to jump into it saying, well, I'm going to homeschool my kids till graduation. Some people do that, and that's great for them if that's what they know they want to do. But I just feel like that's putting a lot of pressure on myself. And so we just decided to take it year by year and kid by kid. And so we've only been doing this officially for 3 years, plus that trial year that we did with my oldest. But this past fall, we did have some difficulties with my oldest. It just got to a point where there was a lot of friction and tension and tears. And our home just wasn't peaceful. And we knew that we were welcoming another baby. I was due this past March. And we just thought, like, I don't want to bring a newborn into this really chaotic and not peaceful situation. And so we prayed about it, and we decided that we were going to put our oldest in a private school from January to June to just finish out this year. And then came the coronavirus, and our son was in private school for less than 2 months before everything shut down. So we realized that God had another plan in that, and it's been good to have him home. It's a million times better than it was before when we were homeschooling him. So I say that, and I share that to just say that you will probably come across homeschoolers that are like, if you're not doing it, then you're wrong. But I think more often than not, people have differing opinions about that, and understand that it's not right for everyone, and it's not doable for everyone. And maybe 1 year you homeschool and 1 year you don't. And one kid you homeschool and one kid you send to public school or private school. All right, well, let's get into the nuts and bolts and the legal aspects of homeschooling. The first thing you need to know is what your state requires. So I'm in Maryland, and if anyone's watching from a different state, you'll need to figure out what your state requirements are. And I think the easiest way to do that is to go to the HSLDA website. It stands for the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. And their website is super helpful, a ton of information on there. Basically, their job is advocacy of homeschooling, helping parents know their rights, helping with any legal issues that might come up if you are a member. So to join, I actually did this today because I wanted to join for the upcoming school year. It's $125 to join per year. And so I've never felt like I needed to do it in the past, but laws are changing with the COVID-19 situation, and I want to be up to date on whether or not Maryland has laws that change. I just think it's a helpful, assuring thing to have right now in this day and age. So I would encourage you to look at their website, and they have links that give a lot of helpful information about your specific state and what's required. Another helpful website is the MDHSA website, and that's the Maryland Homeschool Association website. Their website is pretty simple to navigate. There are a couple of dead links that I ran into, but it's a good place to kind of start. They also have something helpful on there called, I forget what the link is called, but it's about like Maryland homeschool days. Like you can click it and it'll tell you different places and kind of their discounts for homeschoolers. Like the aquarium has one, Science Center. There are a lot of offerings for homeschoolers, and you know, they are in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, when other kids would usually be in school. So that's kind of helpful to know that. But both websites, the HSLDA and the MDHSA sites, will direct you to Maryland state laws. And so let's look at the Maryland requirements. The law states that we need as homeschoolers in Maryland to provide regular, thorough instruction. That's the language that's used. We'll talk about that in the following subjects. So English, math, science, social studies, art, music, health, and physical education, gym. And so that's basically what your kids have at school. So you're required to have regular, thorough instruction. And as you hear that, you're probably thinking that that's pretty vague, and it is. Some states require you to keep a log of how many hours you're doing, how many days you're doing. Maryland's not like that. It's kind of right in the middle of, in terms of strictness and requirements. There are some states where you don't have to do anything. The state just trusts you, and you're not accountable really to anyone. And then there are other states that are really strict and require a lot more. So Maryland's kind of in the middle. I think it's very reasonable. So It's vague, but it also means you have a lot of flexibility in terms of your regular thorough instruction. It doesn't mean you have to teach every subject every day, but it does mean that when you go to be reviewed, which we'll talk about in just a minute, that you have to prove that you have regularly, thoroughly instructed your child in each of these subjects. So the next video I do, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into each subject and how you don't need a separate curriculum for each subject and each grade. But when you decide that you're ready to kind of make it official and send your paperwork off to the county, there's only one paper that you need to fill out. And this does vary from county to county, I believe. And they ask you on it how you're choosing to be reviewed. So you have two options that I wanted to talk about. You can review through your county, or you can review through an umbrella. And so what that means is if you say, okay, I want to review with the county, your county will send someone to review with you. The law says it can be up to 3 times in a year. Most people I know, it's just been once or twice. But you sit down with someone and you show them samples of your students' work, their portfolio, and you might talk about curriculum, and you're just letting this person know, I do in fact homeschool my children. Here are samples of their work. This is evidence of my teaching them. And so that's free to do it that way. I've heard mostly positive things. I know people who have reviewed with Baltimore County and Harford County and Baltimore City, and I haven't really heard any negative stories from people personally. But I have chosen to review through an umbrella. Now, if you go that route, there are different types of umbrellas. I do a church umbrella. And what that means is I do pay a fee for my family each year, and I think it's around $100. But it's more of a peer review. You have a meeting with another homeschool mom who is much more seasoned than I am. Moms who have been doing this for decades, literally. And so they sit down with you and they look at your curriculum choices, your student work, and they're the ones who have been approved by the county, and then they report to the county and say, this person is in fact teaching her children. We've looked at everything and we feel it's sufficient. And so I do have a link at the bottom of the video that shows lots of the umbrella choices for Maryland. So you'll want to look through those and kind of think about how you want to handle that. But also I want to mention that different umbrellas have different requirements. So with me being with a church umbrella, I am required to teach Bible. Now I'm a Christian, so I don't mind, but there may be other people who are not comfortable with teaching Bible or religion, and so you wouldn't want to go with a church umbrella unless that's something that you want to start. My umbrella also requires a planner where you have written down each day what you've done, but not all umbrellas do. But no matter what, you're going to have to produce some type of work that your children have done. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have workbook pages in each subject. We'll talk about that next time. Some umbrellas also, if you're going with a private school, they offer the opportunity for homeschoolers to participate in their extracurricular activities and sports. And so that might be another cool thing for you to think about and consider. So once you've made this decision, do I want to review with the county or with an umbrella? You first have to, I don't know if it's really applying to the umbrella, but you need to reach out to them and become a member before you can send that notice of intent form. Because once you send that intent form to the county, they will check with the umbrella and just make sure that you've already joined it. So that's important to do first. But then, you find the notice of intent to homeschool, which varies by county. Again, the link for that would be on the MDHSA site. And then you fill it out and you mail it. And this is not an application. You're not asking for permission to homeschool. It doesn't have to be approved. You're simply just notifying your county that this is your choice to homeschool your children. And then they'll probably get in touch with you through email to just say that they received it, and then you'll at some point get an official letter in the mail saying that you are on record as choosing to homeschool your child. And so then the fun really begins. But that's it. It's not difficult legally, as you can see. It's basically just deciding about reviews and mailing a form. So that's pretty much it for this first video. I did want to give you a couple of action points to do on your own that might just be helpful for you. But I think that you should familiarize yourself with the HSLDA site and the MDHSA site. Again, both of those are linked underneath of the video here. But just kind of click around. They may have a lot of answers to questions that you have about homeschooling. Not just the legal aspects, but other questions you might have too. Go ahead and print out the notice of intent if you want to do that. And you don't have to fill it out right away, but just have it, look it over. Same thing with the Maryland laws. I printed out the Maryland laws and it's only 2 pages here. So it's not that long, but again, you can be reading it, familiarizing yourself with it. And then you can also, if you want to print out the umbrella page, or just kind of, if you don't print it, just look over it and see if any of them jump out to you. The location of your umbrella really isn't that important. So if you find one that you think you would really love and it's far away, again, if you're doing reviews, that's only once or twice a year. And you may not even have to go to that location. Like I know for mine, my umbrella is located in Harford County, but we had last year, we did Zoom reviews this year, but last year we met at a Baltimore County Public Library. So again, the location of the umbrella isn't that important. But then another thing that I would encourage you to do is to begin really studying your kids. And that sounds kind of funny, but with this whole pandemic, we have all had a lot more time together as families to be around your kids. And some days you're probably really grateful for that, and other days it might drive you crazy. But normally, if your child attends a public or a private school, you know, they're learning from their teacher there for hours and hours a day, and you're not really observing how they learn so much. And so if you did this little experiment, it'd be fun to see what happened. If you told your kids, you know, you gave them completely free play for an hour, but you said no screens. Now you have to probably make that clarification, because I know most kids, including my own, if you said you can do anything you want for an hour, like they would absolutely want their tablet or to watch something. But if you said no screen time, but you can do anything else, see what they would do. And chances are, if you have more than one child, they'll probably pick something different. Maybe not, but would your child decide to play with Legos or blocks, or would they want to just color? Would they write a story, or would they listen to music, or would they want to go outside and play? Would they want to read a book? So all of these can give us clues about their learning styles, which will be important when it comes to choosing curriculum. So just kind of be your child's observer and see what they enjoy doing and how they like to spend their time. And then the last thing I would say would be to just write down any specific questions you have about homeschooling, anything. Just write it all down, and I will certainly try my best to answer them. Most likely I'll find someone who knows more than I do to answer them for you. But it's important to feel confident and feel sure, if you are going to choose to homeschool, that your questions are answered, that there aren't any lingering, nagging feelings of like, but what about this? You know, just ask and see if we can find answers to that. But I hope this was helpful. My next episode will address how to teach specific subjects and how to teach multiple ages together. So in other words, if you have a kindergartner and a 4th grader, there are actually subjects that you can teach them together. You don't have to keep everyone separate. And it'll make your life a lot easier. So we'll talk about that next time. But thanks again for joining me. Feel free to leave any questions you have in the comment section below, and I hope you have a great day.